If you've seen La La Land, you probably remember how you felt when you first watched this scene unfold. You either fell completely in love with its bittersweet resolution, or you wanted to throw a brick at your TV, perhaps both. Now, I want you to hold on to that feeling with all its frustration and anguish, and keep it close. We're heading to France, so don't forget your passport. And stop. Right about there. For those of you who aren't familiar with this wintry gas station, this is the moment that made La La Land possible. As these two lovers go their separate ways, the heartbreak you feel is the exact same one you're holding on to, and that's not an accident.
I made a film called Umbrellas of Cherbourg. I said, what am I going to do? I would like to make people crying. I want to make them cry.
This movie directly inspired La La Land, particularly in its final scene, mirroring the same thematic structure and emotional rhythm to bring the film to its most devastating conclusion. For now, it doesn't matter who these people are or what events brought them here. We'll get to all of that in a moment, but first, let's return to familiar territory. The end of La La Land is one of the most polarizing conclusions to a film in recent cinema. Some jokingly call it their favorite horror movie, while others preemptively turn it off 16 minutes before the credits.
I'm always gonna love you.
I'm always gonna love you too.
Clearly, it works for some, while others feel cheated. I personally think it's perfect, but I understand why people hate it. When a movie fails to stick the landing, audience often disregard everything that came before. It feels like the investment of their time was wasted because their desire was not met. When watching La La Land, the audience is led to hope that Mia and Sebastian will end up together in love after they overcome the challenges inflicted by their artistic pursuits. Director Damien Chazelle knows this is what we want and intentionally concludes his film in a way that subverts the rose-tinted ending that we're used to receiving.
Let's lead to what it would nominally be a happy ending, but the success comes at such a cost that basically it's the saddest happy ending you can imagine. Because I love that sort of, when you can somehow combine a happy ending with a sad ending. I don't know, I like leaving audiences with something to chew on in that regard.
When movies are given happy endings by default for the sake of pleasing the crowd, cinema loses its ability to speak. If you know with certainty that a romance film will end with the obvious candidates in love, and then that's what happens, that resolution is robbed of its ability to elicit any response aside from a warm, fuzzy feeling. Now, I'm not saying that predictable endings are inherently weaker than unpredictable ones, by no means. Some of my favorite films follow a clear, predictable formula. I'm talking about the multitude of films that could rise to something greater, but instead land the plane safely in familiar territory, where every other plane lands. Unfortunately, this decision can be unavoidable when the choice is taken out of the filmmaker's hands and given to executives and producers looking to turn a profit.
Typical Hollywood terms, they'd start off very positive. They tell you they just absolutely love everything about it, and then they proceed to show that that's definitely not the case. They'd say, oh, we love it, we want to do exactly this. We just have a few tiny notes. First of all, it doesn't have to be jazz, right?
I hate jazz.
That's like a placeholder thing. Okay, got it.
What do you mean you hate jazz?
Also, obviously, they need to get together at the end, so could we have a wedding sequence?
Et j'avais à ce moment-là rencontré par exemple Carlo Ponti qui m'avait dit, écoutez, j'aime beaucoup votre histoire, mais il faudrait la faire d'une part en noir et blanc parce que la couleur coûte trop cher. Il faut changer le titre parce que Untitled Chapter, ça veut vraiment pas dire grand-chose. Et puis, faites un dialogue normal, ne faites pas chanter les gens. Bon.
When it is possible for filmmakers to create the movie they envisioned with the most earnest and sincere ending, audiences will feel something they've never felt before. A film is so much more than the way it ends, but the ability to end it well is what sets exceptional films apart. La La Land is so popular because it forgoes the fairy tale, going so far as to taunt you with the very thing you long for, before ultimately presenting something much more raw and true to life.
Welcome to Sebs.
That sting resonates with people, even if it makes enemies of some casual moviegoers along the way.
Does it worry you when you only communicate to a very small audience?
I think they are communicating all right for the moment.
Sometimes it's good to actually just focus on what's personal to you. And maybe what's personal to you is super commercial, but maybe it's not. Maybe it seems like something that, no one would want to see, but you have to kind of hold on to that if it's what speaks to you. You can start to think that filmmaking is something that it's not, or it can start to become very artificial and kind of divorced from what it was when you first wanted to make movies, which is just wanting to tell stories, you know, just wanting to express yourself and kind of regardless of what the outcome would be.
If I can accomplish anything in this video, I hope to challenge people to broaden their horizons when it comes to watching movies, because sometimes the most beautiful stories come from the films that take risks and challenge the viewer, not just give them exactly what they want.
C'est exactement ce qu'on voulait faire. Il n'y a pas un millimètre de compromission. Et tout à coup, c'est accepté en bloc par le public. C'est étonnant.
Going against the grain is how cinema can say new things about the world. It's like the saying goes, you can't expect different results by doing the same thing twice. But of course, this doesn't mean that directors can't take inspiration. During the late 50s and early 60s, one of the most radical and influential movements in cinema was breaking out in Paris. Without it, the Umbrellas of Cherbourg would never have been made. After France's liberation from the German occupation in World War II, films from around the world came flooding in, setting off an explosion in French filmmaking. Inspired by the new era of Hollywood with its bright colors, movie stars, and big budgets, the French wanted to do the same. But eventually, the younger generation of film hobbyists and critics developed a disdain for these new French films, believing they had lost a sense of realism in all the spectacle. They felt that the normalized standards had caused films to lose their voice.
Would you like to make bigger budget films?
Yes, of course, but I think I will never do because as soon as you have $1 million involved in a movie, you are no more free. There is too many people, bankers, lawyers, and so you are no more, it's impossible.
The man speaking is Jean-Luc Godard. He made his start as a young critic, writing with his contemporaries for a film journal, and eventually would become the most prominent director of his era.
C'est un état de passage, c'est pour ça que les critiques sont toujours amères et tristes. J'étais un ancien critique autrefois, c'est que j'ai dit énormément de mal, mais je pense que c'est bien d'avoir été critique, c'est une bonne formation.
Mais est-ce que ça ne risque pas de stériliser l'imagination?
Non, parce que moi ça m'a fait tout aimer, ça m'a...
Out of this movement, the notion of the auteur was born. The idea that a film should reflect the director's personal creative vision from start to finish resonated with people, and the French New Wave began. Around this time, another young French filmmaker was about to break the mold. Break the mold again.
Je suis parti avec cette nouvelle vague parce que j'ai eu la chance d'avoir le même âge qu'un certain nombre de collègues et ensemble, il y a une dame qui était Françoise Giroud, je crois, qui dans l'Express avait dit oh, c'est la nouvelle vague. Et puis on a mis cette étiquette, c'était le cru de l'année, c'était l'appellation contrôle.
Non mais au moment où tous les metteurs en scène, qu'ils soient jeunes ou qu'ils soient vieux, tiennent absolument à faire vrai. Vous tournez délibérément le dos à la vérité, les légendes.
Qu'est-ce que vous voulez? Chacun ses goûts particuliers.
His name is Jacques Demy, and in the early 60s, he had a revolutionary idea for his next film. While the new wave films of the time were marked by minimal lighting, gritty, realistic images, and improvisation, Demy's Umbrellas of Cherbourg would be loud, vibrant, and highly planned. In many ways, he was straddling the methodologies of the new wave and Hollywood. But there's an important detail I've left out, and if you've seen the film, you know what it is.
Bien, c'est un film entièrement chanté, enfin je crois que c'est ce qu'on peut dire de plus précis.
Il m'a dit que ça n'était pas du tout un film ordinaire, c'est-à-dire que nous n'aurions pas à parler ces dialogues qui étaient très simples, que nous aurions à les chanter. Alors je lui ai dit que moi je ne chantais pas, ou du moins très mal.
Et on me disait mais ce type il est pas normal, faire chanter les gens pendant 1h30, c'est pas possible.
Not a single line in the movie is spoken. That means 90 minutes of music to compose and 90 minutes of the most painstakingly precise timing for the actors on set.
Because we had to do all the film in playback, so it has to be so well, synchronized. It's the first time I went on the shooting, the first day, and I knew the film by heart.
Vous n'aviez pas l'impression de manquer un peu de liberté?
Si, on se sent un petit peu parce qu'on est tenu pour tout, pour les gestes, pour les temps, on est tenu par la musique et...
We had big speakers, with the music and all the night scenes, the people were very nice, actually, they're very understanding and...
You kept Cherbourg awake at night, did you?
Oh, yes.
It astonishes me just how convincing the result is. These aren't even the actors' voices. The dedication to these roles is truly commendable. The countless takes stretching late into the night on the streets of Cherbourg ensured that the dream of Jacques Demy and composer Michel Legrand would finally come true.
Si vous voulez, ce qui me gêne un petit peu dans la comédie musicale classique, vous voyez, comme dans l'opérette, c'est le récit, puis une petite chansonnette, puis un peu de récit, puis le ballet, puis on revient à la chansonnette. Cette succession de numéros enlève un peu d'unité au spectacle. Et là, je rêvais d'un spectacle total.
Here's composer Michel Legrand, who wrote every single piece of music for the film.
C'est amusant car c'est difficile. Mais il y a tout de même des contraintes, et c'est au sein de ces contraintes, une fois qu'on les a découvertes, qu'il faut être libre.
This was the first time anything like this had been done in a movie. At every turn, Demy and Legrand were met with doubt, criticism, and financial troubles, but by the time the film finally hit theaters, it took the world by storm.
Arts and Sciences presents its 34th annual...
Now, after 32 years, we can at last see the Umbrellas of Cherbourg in all of its three-strip Technicolor-like glory, and it is magnificent.
Jacques Demy vient d'obtenir le prix Louis de Luc avec Les Parapluies de Cherbourg, mis en musique par Michel Legrand. Film étonnant est d'abord dans le sens où étonnant veut dire qui étonne réellement.
This is really a mature movie musical.
It's playing in revival theaters around the country. It will be on video after a while. Look for it.
I'd see it in a movie. This is one to see in a theater.
In a movie theater. But of course, if you don't have one,
build one.
Build one, okay.
Dans Les Parapluies de Cherbourg, je suis presque ce que j'aurais pu être, une jeune fille de 18 ans qui est amoureuse d'un jeune homme de son âge.
The plot of the film is very straightforward. It follows two young lovers forced apart by war, distance, and time. Geneviève, played by Catherine Deneuve, and Guy, played by Nino Castelnuovo, fall in love in their small town in France. Geneviève works at her mother's umbrella shop and sneaks away when she can to see her lover smelling of gasoline from working on cars all day. It's a rapturous, youthful romance in perfect harmony with the bright colors and music surrounding them. But as time goes on, the film's vibrant setting comes into conflict with Geneviève and Guy's troubles. When Guy is sent to fight in the war, Geneviève's heart is riven with grief, and she's further compressed by the weight of carrying Guy's child alone. Tormented by promises of love, a lack of correspondence, and her mother's urges to marry a handsome jewel broker, Geneviève chooses to move on. When Guy finally returns, he's a fragment of the man he was due to the toll of war and the dagger of realization that Geneviève has begun a life with another man. Guy, too, must decide to make a life for himself. And this brings us back to the gas station, a place separated by space and time where the two are reunited. The parallels between Umbrellas of Cherbourg and La La Land are easily drawn. A once blossoming romance is torn apart until the passing of time brings an unexpected reunion. But rather than rekindle the love they once shared, both people voluntarily choose a life apart from the one they will always love, in favor of another. Good directors take inspiration from other films, but do it in a way that's unique to them. This is a feat that Damien Chazelle accomplishes flawlessly in the final scene of La La Land. By taking the elements at the heart of this gas station scene and applying them to the jazz bar where Sebastian and Mia find themselves, Chazelle is able to generate the same reaction in the audience, one of complete betrayal and heartache.
I mean, Umbrellas of Cherbourg specifically is my favorite movie of all time, and if I could name one, because if I had to send a movie to aliens and kind of describe what cinema is, what this thing called cinema is, I think that's a movie that doesn't even make sense on paper, and it's the most shattering, transporting work of art I've seen in any medium. And I remember the first time I watched it, never having seen a Jacques Demy movie before, and being a little uncomfortable for the first 5 minutes, going is this really, are they gonna sing through the whole movie? And by the end, just emotionally transported in a way that I've still have never been by any other movie.
Looking at the setup of the scene itself, the location, and where the characters are positioned within it, we notice many similarities. In both films, this scene occurs at night, at a place that harkens back to an old dream that has now come true. Sebastian has always dreamed of opening his own jazz bar, and likewise Guy dreamed of running his own mechanic shop. These places indicate to the audience, and more importantly to Mia and Geneviève, that life has been good to him. Imagine what it would say about the male character if he was found homeless on the street. Clearly here, heartbreak wasn't enough to ground him for good. On top of that, these locations intentionally feel removed from the rest of the film, and various techniques allow us to feel the weight of past time. In La La Land, a simple title card, ironically indicating wintertime over a palm tree, tells us that we have left the blissful months. As the backdrop is rolled away, the film doubles down on this shift. Not only have 5 years gone by, but the facade is dropped, and we're about to witness reality as it is. In Umbrellas, a title card is swapped for white, powdery streets and snowflakes flittering on the screen. Winter brings with it darkness and the cold, but simultaneously, there's a purity and light that shines within the melancholy. For a film like Umbrellas, which has thus far been characterized by warmth and color, this muted palette of white and gray is like a blank slate, a place to start afresh when spring comes. As Mia and Geneviève drive to their respective destinations, they both make spontaneous detours, seemingly guided by fate or destiny. A series of lefts, rights, and why nots lead them back to the last man they ever expected to see. Sebastian living out his dream, and Guy living out his. As a symbolic final gesture, they both do something consistent with the life they've chosen. Sebastian pours his heart out on the piano, playing the love theme that encapsulates every moment he shared with Mia. And in less dramatic fashion, Guy provides Geneviève fuel for her car. Though it sounds insignificant, for Guy, fueling Geneviève's car is as symbolic as Sebastian's song, a quiet act of care that reflects his new life. After only a few minutes back in the same room, a consensus is reached. In both cases, just a small passing comment indicates the decision wasn't difficult. There was almost no choice to be made.
C'est loupé, quoi. Ils se revoient, alors il faut qu'on souffre un peu. Il faut qu'on souffre un peu parce qu'ils vont rien se dire. C'est clair que le type, la façon dont il a refait sa vie, il ne bougera plus. Non plus. Et elle non plus. Enfin, je sais pas, il y a une petite tentative quand même de quelque chose. Enfin, je sais pas.
When the interaction comes to an end, Geneviève asks if Guy is doing well, to which he responds, yes, very well. His demeanor failing to agree with his words. As she walks out the door, she looks at him one last time and leaves. This same exchange plays out in the club, although in La La Land it occurs without words. As Mia is walking out, she halts in her tracks as if pulled by a rope of light leading back to Sebastian. Turning, she looks at him. When he meets her gaze, the camera pans back to Mia inquisitively. The intimate close-ups position them face to face, while the rest of the room fades away. Her expression is riddled with questions and concerns, to which Sebastian responds with a weak yet sincere smile. Yes, I'm doing very well. As a smile shines back from her, he nods his head in an affirming yet playful manner. In that nod, he acknowledges every moment they shared together and reassures her that in spite of the love they will never share, he's happy. She turns away and follows her husband out the door, happy with her life too. In the same way, Geneviève returns to her family in Paris, and Guy's son runs into his arms with his wife close behind him. On the surface, the way these films end is unhappy. It's the opposite of what we've hoped for, and our dreams are unrequited. I'm sure there are contrarians out there who never wanted them to get back together, but I'm confident that's the minority view. Regardless, it's important to note that for the couples in these films, they're content and even happy with the life they chose.
To me, it was all about how you balance dreams and real life, which as a movie lover, a lot of times our dreams, I think, are kind of refracted through movies, and that's kind of the movie way is how we sort of would love life to unspool.
La La Land and Umbrellas of Cherbourg reveal to us where our own expectations of reality may be muddled in fantasy. The way romance unfolds in reality is rarely ever like the movies. I know how depressing that might sound for the hopeless romantics, me included, but it's crucial to recognize that the dream ending is not the only path to happiness in love. There's a silver lining within the unhappy ending, and these films challenge us to see the joy behind the clouds.
So it did feel to me actually kind of appropriate to end with a reality that I think while, a very optimistic reality is not a completely happy ending, and then give you the completely ribbons tied happy ending, but through purely fantasy, through this moment that we kind of know is not real.
Il a dit, oh là là, mais c'est une phrase que j'ai toujours retenue. Vouloir le bonheur, c'est déjà un peu le bonheur, quoi. Il y a une mise en programmation du bonheur chez Jacques.
There's something I find very admirable within these endings. Looking at Umbrellas, Guy is living the life he always wanted with a loving wife and a son. Budging from that now, though it would bring some shallow comfort to the audience, would tarnish his character. Guy chooses to love his wife and hold true to his promises. When Geneviève left, he chose happiness. His vow to love Madeleine is the best thing he could have done. He gets to play with his son rather than pine for a love that might have been. Only the former will bring authentic joy. There's virtue and maturity here that gets overlooked in the storm. And the same goes for La La Land. Only in a movie would we dare to hope that someone might leave their spouse and their incredible life for an old fling in the name of love. Mia, just like Guy, acts with integrity and maturity as she chooses to love her family and remove herself from entertaining what now is only just a dream. The way this scene plays out is how it would in real life. The dream sequence reflects our desire back to us and then checks it with reality. The movie then turns to ask the audience what we believe about love and loss. What would we actually sacrifice for our dream? And are we caught up expecting reality to fit our fantasy standards? Damien Chazelle set out to speak on more than just the power of love. For them, a relationship that could have been, but never will be, was a much more effective springboard to present nuanced questions and emotions.
To me, it was all about trying to just hone in on the emotions.
Je cherche toujours des émotions quand même. C'est pourquoi je vous ai dit, je suis sûrement plus sentimental qu'intellectuel. J'accorde beaucoup à l'émotion.
Chazelle often finds himself testing the limits of a person's desire, pulling them limb from limb between the pursuit of passion and love to see where they fall. His 3 other films, Whiplash, First Man, and Babylon, explore this overlapping idea, but the emotions at the heart are what drive them.
Pourquoi fait-on un film? Comment est-on amené à faire un film? Je crois qu'il faut des motivations profondes.
La La Land sits at the center of this theme with the push and pull of art and love. In the many similarities these films share, there's one glaring difference. Though the interpretation of a score is subjective, the music positions these films as near opposites. First, looking at La La Land, a big musical number is contained within the fantasy sequence, the entirety of which exists within the notes Sebastian plays on the piano. The energy of the song completes the symmetrical return to the musical high of the freeway scene.
The way we thought of it kind of symmetrically was that then it takes the whole movie to sort of work our way back up to that world. And so at the end of the movie, when they're on the studio soundstage, we bring back those same dancers and even the same freeway motifs. We bring back the same melody as that whole fantasy sequence begins. So it's a little bit of that to have the movie be a full circle, to basically begin in one extreme, then ground it through the actors, try to tell a story that then allows us to emotionally build back up to that extreme.
Interestingly, the symmetry starts in the real world, but resolves within the dream. This creates an emotional imbalance. When you remove the dream altogether, the music that remains in the real world is minimal. As Sebastian delicately finishes his song, the film takes a breath during the applause, letting the atmosphere linger without music. This moment feels grounded in reality, in stark contrast to the excitement of the fantasy world. Everything slows down, and the world seems to hold its breath as Mia and Sebastian face each other. The music waits too, watching. In the silence, the audience clings to every micro-expression, pining for resolve. As the smiles slowly appear, the score tiptoes back to the forefront and eventually crescendos with the end title screen. The music is bittersweet but hopeful. It further emphasizes the connection between Mia and Sebastian, bridging the gap between their smiles from across the room and saying what can't be said with words. Even as they go their separate ways, the music makes them feel aligned in their pursuits and confident as they go off into the future.
And also I think this idea of two people who, okay, maybe they're not going to be together, you know, they don't have the happily ever after ending, but that doesn't lessen the moment that they had together. This idea of two people coming together, that sometimes you meet someone for even just a fleeting moment in your life, but that person can change everything and kind of help you become who you later become. That idea felt very sort of potent and in its own way romantic to me.
This is the idea that the score helps to convey, and it's an idea that's largely absent from Umbrellas. In Demy's film, the score is far more dramatic. As Geneviève and Guy talk, the music encourages feelings of despair and hopelessness. As the snow falls harder outside, the film presents this moment as nothing but tragic. Legrand's recurring theme titled "I Will Wait for You" shifts from a tender promise of the past into a devastating lament, giving the music itself a story of loss. When Geneviève walks out the door, the orchestra builds, sustaining its largest and most dramatic peak as Guy plays with his son in the snow. Like a foreboding thunderstorm, where waves crash violently against the rocks, the music wails. It's as if the film is framing this ending as a warning to those who give up on true love. A warning of what may happen if you choose a life with a different lover. Various cautionary symbols are found in this scene, like this red post in the frame as Geneviève walks into the lobby, and this flashing red light as the camera pulls away. These create an implicit apprehension, and the music elevates that feeling. The music might also act as an echo of the audience. By anticipating the response to the scene, the score intensifies the emotional impact. In La La Land, the music has a sense of unification in spite of the circumstance, but here, the music creates a vast distance between Guy and Geneviève. The noise pushes Geneviève far out of reach and isolates Guy as he withdraws into his shop. Even though nothing is amiss for him as he sits in the comfort of his family, content with the choices he's made, the audience feels a haunting dissonance and isolation, as if suddenly he's now all alone. Earlier, Chazelle pointed to the romance and optimism within love that doesn't last. Any hint of this optimism in Umbrellas is consumed by despair, and the film closes in clear, profound sorrow.
So I wrote a story for that purpose, to make them more tender or think, about their first love or whatever, and make them really crying. And I succeeded. I was pleased.
Though The Umbrellas of Cherbourg may leave you in tears, it's far more than a movie to cry to. When I first watched it, it was definitely outside my comfort zone, but I've grown to love it more and more with every rewatch. It's colorful, witty, exciting, and so moving that it inspired one of the most beloved films of the decade. So next time you're watching La La Land, yelling at the screen for ending the same way every time, remember it all started at a snowy gas station in Cherbourg with a French director who just wanted to make people cry.
I guess I personally find musicals among the most emotional of genres. There's something about the earnestness and the innocence inherent in the genre that makes you more vulnerable, I think, to really feel, and not just joy, but feel heartbreak, feel regret, feel melancholy. And so a movie like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, Jacques Demy's movie, is so powerful for that reason. You needed to feel like, oh, those two are singing and dancing? Oh, well, maybe I can too.
I said, what a dream if people coming out of the theater could dance and sing and be happy. What am I going to do for that? And I wrote a story. A lot of people really were very happy. I was happy too. That's my... So it's as simple as that, but it's beautiful. If you can communicate like that and bring something, it's marvelous. Better than money, I tell you.